Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to day 2. This will be session 3 that you have signed up for. Just checking you're in the right session. But if you're here, you might as well just stay with us. Now, just a quick one to let you know that our event will be starting very soon. We hope everyone from outside will come in and settle down. It's free sitting, so please pick a table with somebody on it. Say hi. You know, I understand from my conversations that networking is a big part of being here today. So I hope that everybody walks home with a couple more names, friends, contacts, and somebody that you could work with in the coming months and year ahead. Now, if you notice, the aircon today is also very comfortable. Yes? Good. All good. Wonderful. So we've listened to your feedback. We know it was a bit chilly yesterday. It's 25 degrees today. I checked. We all checked. So I'm glad you're comfortably dressed, and we also want to do our part for sustainability by making sure we don't waste resources unnecessarily. So thank you for your patience. We'll just wait a couple more minutes to get the okay, and then we'll kickstart session 3. Already. Just to check as well that your mobile phones and all beeping devices are switched to silent mode. Thank you. Hello there. Good afternoon. How's everyone feeling today? Okay, day 2, all good. The energy was great outside. I hope that you enjoyed the food and the networking. I know that's an important part for why you're here this afternoon as well. So first and foremost, welcome back for those of you who were with us yesterday, and for those of you who just came in today. So glad to have you here in session 3. That said, before we begin properly today, we'd like to take a moment to have a look at a safety video to see what we should be doing in the event of an emergency. So let's start off by watching this video.
Welcome to Park Royal on Beach Road. Please give us your full attention as we show you what to expect when the fire alarm is activated.
Fire safety evacuation video. The fire alarm has been activated. We are investigating the situation. Please remain calm and wait for further instruction. Ladies and gentlemen, your attention, please. There exists an emergency situation in the building. Please evacuate by the nearest exit and obey all instructions given by the fire wardens. Remember to avoid the use of lifts. All guests from Grand Ballroom 2 and 3 please exit through the designated fire exit door near to the link bridge. Please evacuate in an orderly manner. Take only your valuables and leave all bulky items behind. All guests from Grand Ballroom 1, Sky Ballroom 1, 2, 3 and Boardroom please exit through the designated fire exit doors 9, 10 or 11 leading to the courtyard. Please remain calm and head towards the fire assembly point. Please be careful as you make your way down the stairs. All staff, guests, customers, visitors shall not re-enter the building once at the assembly point unless instructed otherwise by the civil defense officer in attendance. On reaching the assembly area, please take your attendance with the staff present. If you are feeling unwell or need any medical attention, please inform the staff present.
Thank you for your kind attention and have a nice day.
Indeed, thank you for your attention. It is safe until it's not safe, so we don't want to take that for granted. That said, this is the end of the safety briefing, but we'll go straight into welcoming all of you once again. Please be patient with me as I welcome some of our new friends here today. This is day 2 of the International Safety at Sea Conference 2023. So good to see familiar faces and new ones for session 3. My name is Carissa Seat, and it's a pleasure to be your MC for today. That said, a bit of background. Now, this conference is part of a series of events this entire week for the International Safety at Sea Week. I understand some of you have office visits, site visits, various excursions. It sounds really fun. Yeah, so I'm glad that you're all really jumping in and really getting involved in various activities all around. Now, we're also very proud to be welcoming 350 participants from all over the world in more than 20 countries here in this room with us. So it really represents a time of great collaboration and partnership from all across the region. And we're so glad that you took time to be here. Sitting next to you, possibly, are key decision makers from governments all around the world or even across different sectors of the maritime industry. So today, make sure that you say hello to everyone around you. You never know which, who you'll be working with coming up. Okay, so that's it, ladies and gentlemen, a bit of background about what we're doing here today. I think you want to know as well. The format of this program is going to be like this. We will have speakers that will come on stage. They will take about 10 minutes to share what they know and what they're best at, and after which all of them will come out on stage for a panel session. And if you are here with us, you'll know that you get to participate as well today. So we'll have you scan a QR code to join us and ask your questions in Pigeonhole. Right? So it sounds quite straightforward. And so, today, what is the topic? Someone was asking me, what are we here for? We're here for the good food and the networking. But today, we're talking about cyber security and a resilient maritime ecosystem. I know it is a love-hate relationship. You kind of know it's necessary, you like it, but at the same time, it's not that easy to put it in place. But digitalization, connectivity, it's something that we know opens up new opportunities. It's not even a luxury, it's a prerequisite for many of us. But that also means that it opens up a lot of our organizations and our processes to threats, which are getting more sophisticated and more organized in the way that they work. So that's it. Cyber resilience, what is that all about? We talk about it being robustness of our information technology, our operation systems. It's all needed for us to actually stay interconnected, automated, as well as our digital ships and offshore operations to work well. So we're so glad that we managed to gather in today experts from different aspects of cybersecurity that will be sharing and diving into this topic, hopefully giving us some handles and food for thought. And we also know that cybersecurity is not just technology, which we'll be talking about. It's also about people, it's about processes, and knowledge that's always changing and updating. So with that, I'm going to stop talking here and open the stage to my very first speaker who will join us on stage to warm us all up with his presentation. I'm pleased to welcome Chief Information Security Officer of Maritime and Port Authority of Singapore, Mr. Ong Jin Beng. Mr. Ong.
Very good afternoon to everybody. I'm humbled by the privilege to be standing on the stage here to share with you some of the key initiatives that MPA is embarking on. I see many familiar faces. Martin, who I have not seen for many years, thank you, and it's good to see you today. So, according to, I'll start off by talking about this report. This report was hot off the shelf. It was released in September, and the survey was actually done between April to July this year. So some of you may have read this report, and this report is called the DMV Maritime Cyber Priority 2023 report. And I specially chose it for a particular reason. Cybersecurity, as many of you will know, is actually a growing maritime risk, and the report says so. And interestingly, this report, while the survey was being done, it was 90% of the respondents, many senior executives, actually talks about the possibility of increasing cyber risk to maritime and the impact as serious as a closure of a major port and waterways. And while the report was being prepared, being bound and being released, something that you all already know happened. In 3rd of July, the port of Nagoya was hit. And what is significant about this particular event is that it's actually one of the key events that had a key cyber-physical impact. And the port was actually closed down for 2 days. So it has been talked about cyber-physical impact, but this actually is a key manifestation of an actual incident that actually have a disruption of operation. And reportedly, this incident was carried out by Lockbit 3.0, a ransomware group affiliated to Russia. And the elephant in the room is this. If this has happened to a port, will it happen to a shipping? So cyber-physical disruption that happened to a port, will it actually happen to your fleet operations per se? And thereby putting your crew, your passengers, and the environment in harm's way. And some of you may have known that back in 2019, researchers from the University of Regenka and Kobe University, they actually demonstrated the disruption of a ship electronic chart display and information system by exploiting the blue kit vulnerability on board a Japanese training vessel. And in this particular same report of DMV, it said that 90% of the maritime professionals surveyed by them expect a disruption of ship or fleet operations to be likely in the near future. So, with increased digitalization and improved connectivity at ports and onboard vessels, inevitably the attack surface has also expanded. Ports and vessels will face more cyber unknown risks. And cyber risks, as we speak, are increasingly more sophisticated and getting more organized to exploit new systems, vulnerability in a fast and a coordinated manner. As cyber attackers continue to evolve and develop more sophisticated tools and techniques, their motivations are driven beyond financial gains. And this includes seeking to disrupt port and shipping operations, as what we have seen in the port of Nagoya. And cybersecurity is not just a security issue. Effectively, it is a matter of a safety. So cybersecurity can impact safety, and we need to address it, all of us in this room. So to enable maritime entities to safely reap the benefit of interconnected, automated digital ships and on and offshore operations, we need to build a cyber resilience ecosystems to ensure the robustness of our information systems or operation systems. So to enhance cyber resiliency in Maritime Singapore, MPA will collaborate with our industry to strengthen our early detections, monitoring and response, analysis and information sharing of cyber threats. This will be done through the by enhancing the current Maritime Cybersecurity Operations Center that is supporting the cyber risk management of our critical information infrastructure in the maritime sector. So as the cyber risk actually evolves, we will expand the current center into what we call the Maritime Cyber Assurance and Operations Center, or MACAOT in short, from 2025. This center will progressively raise the cyber resilience of onshore information systems, vessels, and offshore operation technology through collaborations with like-minded parties, like everybody in the room, research communities and firms to undertake joint development projects. So MACAOT will aggregate, and what is it for the industry is that it will aggregate the cost and the manpower for cybersecurity services, without which it will be challenging for actually each and every entities to build their own center, whereby you will have a hard time finding cybersecurity analysts or the individual costs to your organization. So this MACAOT help to aggregate the costs, and it will help to be able to cost share among especially the small and medium enterprises, and to close the gap in the digital divide between the well-resourced company and the less well-resourced. So we have actually piloted this in PSA Vista, and I will appeal to partners here that we're more than welcome to have industry partners and your cyber teams to operate at MACAOT, which can bring in, you can bring your cyber specialists, your engineers, your architects together, upskills our maritime workforce as a whole, and conduct exercises with our like-minded partners. So, MPA effort in cyber security is also in the international fora. Last year, MPA, in collaboration with Singapore University of Technology and Design, submitted our proposal for voluntary cyber risk management guidelines for major shipboard operation technology systems, including communication, propulsion, machineries and power control, navigations and cargo management systems to the International Maritime Organization, or IMO in short. And as we develop MACAOC, which I covered in my previous slide, there will be more collaboration and exchange of good practices among the member states to strengthen our collective maritime cybersecurity and risk management ecosystem. And in addition, as most of you would have probably already know, last year, together with Singapore Shipping Association during the Marine Tech Conference, an MOU was signed between Singapore Shipping Association, MPA, and 7 industry partners to strengthen our cybersecurity capabilities of the maritime industry in Singapore. The MOU establishes the cybersecurity roundtable where participants will recommend and work on initiatives to improve maritime cybersecurity collaboration through information sharing, growing talents, leading talents pool for maritime cyber skill in Singapore, and it facilitates greater awareness and access to maritime solutions and talents. The detail to this, I'll leave it to Michael to mention more in the next round. So to enhance the industry cyber resilience against cyber risks, MPA, we put money where our mouth is. Together with Singapore Maritime Institute, we actually awarded 4.7 million to iTrust, the Center for Research in Cybersecurity at the Singapore University of Technology and Design, to develop a maritime test bed of shipboard operation technology systems, or Marriott in short. This is done in collaboration with American Bureau of Shipping, Singapore Polytechnic Center of Excellence in Maritime Safety. So when it is built by around Q4 next year, Marriott will be the world's first industrial-grade cyber-physical platform equipped with essential shipboard operation systems to offer a safe and realistic testing environment for cyber technologies without disrupting the actual vessel's operation. This particular hybrid platform will be used to design and validate new cybersecurity technologies for deployment on board ships, as well as to train maritime professionals and students through cybersecurity exercises and drills. So, ladies and gentlemen, in conclusion, in today's cyberspace is markedly more complicated than ever before, creating a new threats to our maritime ecosystem. Attack on the confidentiality and availability of information have been commoditized and significantly lowering the barrier to entry. The revelations of highly sophisticated attacks have exposed a new vulnerabilities across the physical and digital supply chain. Further, this will further expand the scope of risk to secure the exchange of information, which is a key part and the bloodline of digitalization. So complex interconnected systems and critical infrastructures like maritime sectors are susceptible to potential severe effects of a cyber attack. So working in partnership with all of you in this room and the maritime entities, we will continue to build a cyber-safe and resilient maritime ecosystem to defend our sectors and maritime critical infrastructure from cyber attacks. And I thank you for your attention. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Ong Chun Beng, for that opening sharing there. And of course, later look forward to having you up on the panel where we get to interact and ask questions in this area as well. That's it. I'm pleased next to invite on stage our Chief Executive Officer of Cyber Owl, Mr. Daniel Ng, to join us. Daniel, stage is yours.
Hi, good afternoon, and thanks for coming along to this. So I'm Dan, I'm CEO of a company called Cyber Owl. I'll spend the next 10 minutes giving you a view of research that we've done looking at the state of maritime cyber risks, but focusing very much on vessel systems. But firstly, very quickly on us, Cyber Owl is a specialist in maritime cybersecurity. securing vessel systems. We've become one of the largest players in this space, really helping shipping companies with, in particular, detection and response for cyber risks on shipboard systems, but also supporting through monitoring to close backdoors and reduce the risk surface. One of the problems we face in shipping is that there's very little data around cyber risks. And so the sector sometimes scrambles around in the dark, trying to work out how much to invest or whether they are far enough advanced in terms of securing the systems on board the vessels. So we invest quite a lot of time trying to pull data out from the people we work with, but also the rest of the sector, to try to understand where we are and how far we need to progress in order to keep our systems resilient. And one of the things we do is to produce this report. This is the second version of this, and it's looking at the state of maritime risk today. So it involves about 200 shipping operators, which we've kind of reviewed and spoken to, pulled data and anonymized it, and I'm going to share some of that data with you today. Let's start at the top. So compared to last year, this year, the cost of cyber attacks to the average shipping company has doubled. What that means is for the average shipping company, it's costing them about $500,000 to recover from a cyber attack. So $500,000, if you are a large shipping company, is probably not going to cripple you financially. But if you're a small shipping company, could be existential. A number of these result in ransom payments. And compared to 2022, this year, we've had a 350% increase on ransom payments, with the average ransom payment being about $3 million USD. So let's just reflect on that for a second. $3.2 million, again, for a medium and small shipping company is existential. So it's time we started doing something about this. And if we look deeper into how to secure ships and vessels, there's a lot of lessons we can pull from securing office and enterprise systems. There are a lot of similarities. However, shipping itself and vessel systems have some differences as well. And some of the data we looked into supports some of this. First things first. A fleet of about 30 vessels will experience roughly, on average, about 80 incidents a year. So, in general, a fleet of 30 vessels, or a company that runs a fleet of 30 vessels, has one IT person, maybe two. Running business on a day-to-day basis, having to keep the vessels up and running, but also dealing with a number of incidents a year. Because it's generally one or two people, they don't necessarily have the skill sets that range everything from putting IT down on board vessels, running cabling, understanding SATCOM and how that works, all the way through to technical cybersecurity capability. So firstly, we've got a resourcing problem. And if we're going to have to deal with this kind of volume, and if that's going to increase over time, we need to upskill the people working in the sector to be able to deal with this kind of issue. If you dig into what's driving this, a huge part of it comes from human error, lack of visibility, poor controls. So this is about leaving back doors open. So we are creating the problems that leave the back doors open that enable people to walk through. So much of this can be solved by closing the back door. So much of this can be solved by being proactive around your security. That involves training, that involves awareness, that involves behavioral change. Doesn't necessarily have to cost a lot of money. There's also a slight difference between working with vessel systems and office systems. If we looked at all the incidents that we could analyze in 2022, 80% of them happened in and around the port. Why is that? Well, there's a few reasons. The first is onboarding and offboarding. That's exchange of devices, exchange of people, exchange of crew, plugging things in, connecting things up. The second is that there's a lot of activity that happens in and around the port. Exchange of documents, emailing things to and fro, sending things to and fro, sending software, documents. So if you actually look at where the incidents happen, they happen quite a lot in and around the activity of a port. So the cross-contamination between ship and shore is increasingly critical. And so we can't think of ships just purely as isolated systems anymore. We've got to think of them as part of a long chain of shipping operations. And at the moment, they are the weakest link. So we need to do more work there. The average incident takes 57 days to resolve. It's nearly 2 months to resolve. Now, luckily, most cyber incidents today are very much focused or very much contained on the IT side of the vessel. So not so much on a physical safety system. But imagine a world when that starts to become more common. Impacts on physical safety systems. Imagine a fire on board a vessel and taking 2 months to resolve it. It's unacceptable. So we need to do something more again here. And 75% or more of incidents involve working with the crew. So we can't have cybersecurity practitioners within shipping companies working in isolation in the office tower back in Singapore. We need better coordination, we need better operations, we need better workflow that enables crew and shore to work in tandem. I'll leave those thoughts with you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Daniel. Lots to think about, food for thought as well, and clearly we have to do this together. So next to take the stage, we have Head of Fleet IT, Pacific Carriers Limited. Please welcome Mr. Ron Fong. Ron, please.
Maybe let me start off by saying thank you to all the participants who actually came here, right? And I'm so glad I'm actually taking the session after Dan, because I think eventually I'm playing a little bit of a devil's advocate in this case. I'm that one IT guy that he mentioned, who's based out of Singapore, sadly. Now, a little bit of PCL in this case. I'm from PCL, and PCL runs and operates as an owner for dry bulks, wet tankers, and we are part of the Cook Group itself. So to start off, maybe I want to talk a little bit also on a little bit about the vessel threat landscape first. Okay. This is not a glitch, and I purposely did it just to, again, showing a different side of the world. So in situations like this, what would you have done, right, on a day-to-day basis? Would you restart the program, restart your laptop, call up your favorite IT guy, or at that very instance, would you consider determining whether this is a cyber attack? Today, seafarers are far different from us in a way. They would probably respond in a very similar like us, thinking about the 4 possible options, right? Now, coming into the context of seafarers, in the event that a GPS is not working or AI is malfunctioning or ACDIS is not showing the correct data, what is our expectations of them today? Are we expecting them to gather a bunch of system logs to analyze data? Or are we talking about getting them to determine whether this is a cyber attack? In reality today, and I hope that there is actually a lot of operators within this room today, right? Seafarers can determine anomalies from their day-to-day operations. And I would say most of the companies have very robust procedures in place in case of situation like this to be able to deal with it. However, don't get me wrong, I'm not saying that there is no risk or threat at this point. All I'm trying to say is there is still a form of gap to understand cyber risk, right? Between, I would say, cyber practitioners, regulators, operators, as well as our seafarers. It will be good to really gauge or trying to understand what's the expectations between, again, practitioners, regulators versus reality, right? Maybe just sharing a little bit of a story, and I'm not sure whether this story will get me fired from my organization. This year, we actually conducted something called a red teaming exercise. For the general public, basically, we hired real hackers to try and hack our fleet of vessels. In a very particular scenario, one of the vessel as well as one of the machine is actually being compromised, not remotely, but through social engineering. But the executive report, when it came back, is basically saying, oh, we managed to gain connectivity to this particular machine that we compromised. However, we are not able to remotely command or control it. In summary, what they're saying is maybe, PCL's fleet of vessels might have very advanced security that's protecting this machine. But in reality, when we start investigating it, it's not. It's just because there's poor internet connections. So again, sharing the challenges as a ship operator, again, very specific as dry bulk or wet tankers. It's really coming down to 3 points, right? We talk about regulatory compliance, the lack of investments in technologies and people, increase in goods and services from supply chain. So basically, to sum it up, with regulation that comes in, as well as within the supply chains as services that is being supplied to the vessels itself, getting maybe type approvals, getting certain systems checked and agreed by regulations, for example. All this, in the end, costs dollars. Quite a big amount, actually. Right? What we face as a resource constraint at this point is none of the charterers are able to tell us that they are willing to pay more today to pay for a secured ship. Right? Again, where do we find this balance? Food for thought, right? So maybe just an educational slide, building cyber resilience ecosystems. We talk about 3 points. The main one is around training. This is one of the most important in my sense, similar to maybe adding on to what Dan has shared. So as of today, operators share or requires their crew to have certain level of cyber awareness training. But all these are very fundamentals in a way. It's almost like a checkbox exercise. So the recommendation here is actually to go beyond the basic cyber awareness. We also wanted them to be able to train as part of incident response. OT cybersecurity is very specific, and in the long run, it is even possible to try and regulate into STCW or extend from ISPS. Right? Maybe to share a little bit, PCL has actually started an initiative this year where we are identifying certain younger generation in ranks, where we are training them beyond the current cyber awareness, being able to do incident response on board the ship. The aim for us is by the end of next year, there will at least be one crew on board the ship that is certified to do incident response from a cybersecurity perspective. Second point, incident response again, live drills, vessel environments, all these are essentials for operators to be conducted in order to build resilience within the organization. Followed by simulated drills, test beds, like Jim Bing has shared. The Mary OT test beds is ideal for industry partners to come in, not just to test out the system itself, but also to test out your own processes. Lastly, information sharing, threat intelligence, vulnerabilities, post-incident case studies. Again, maybe for maritime industry, for the longest time, we have been very enclosed. We are not in the world of trying to share information. Going forward, if we want to help build up the industry, information sharing is vital. Again, what MPS has shared in this case, the Macao will be a good platform to start with. Now, lastly, how can the industry really help? A little bit of a marketing for SSA and MPA in this case. I would say there are very good initiatives already currently done by MPA as well as SSA. For those partners and people in the room, if you have not been involved or has not been part of these initiatives or SSA or part of MPA, I would say get yourself involved and be able to contribute into the industry. Thank you.
Thank you for that sharing, Mr. Ron Fong. Indeed, it is an ongoing process, doesn't quite stop there. Training being top of mind, from what I heard. Our final speaker before we go into panel session is Head of IT Security PSA Corporation Limited, Mr. Lee Sin. Let's welcome Lee Sin, please.
Thank you, everyone. So first of all, let me thank MPA for inviting me to be here to share with you how PSA protect our assets in a port operating environment. Then I would also thank all of you to come here so that we can learn and share how we do cyber protection to make things better. But before I go into the sharing, I just want to take a minute to share that PSA is actually no longer an acronym for Port of Singapore Authority, that the regulatory function is with MPA since 1997 after we corporatized. So PSA is just a brand name for a business entity, okay? Let me go into the details. So in the center, you will see that the gray portion is the typical port range. On the far left side, you see the vessel come on board. So that's where MPA comes to play and the shipping lines come into play. So after that, you will see that the QC is key cranes that will move the boxes over to the wharf side. Then you will see vehicles that we call it horizontal transport that move the boxes, containers from the vessel, in between the vessel to the wharf, then goes into the yacht. Then from the yacht, inside, you will see those equipment that we will need to support them. That's why we build the warehouse. We have the spare facility and all that stuff to make sure things are operated. Is in this kind of large scale and complex environment, there's a need for in-house resource planning system so that we can plan the operations. And we also have sophisticated interconnected operating systems to control that operations. That's the command center. Then move further in, that's where you will see the gates, where you will see people like customers, right? The government agencies handling the working together, co-locate with port operators to do the import and export handling. So after that, then you will see that ecosystem. So as of now, PSA has two classes of business. One is the centerpiece that focuses on port operation. Then the right side is more on the community side, whereby the whole ecosystem of logistics, supply chain happens. So we have systems that serving the vessel on the left. So people like PCL, when their vessel comes in, you hear them saying that the seafarers will need past documentation to the agencies as well as port operators. In the past, it used to be a stack of paper. Nowadays, we digitize it, you will see people carrying USB sticks, which is a cyber security threat. Then you will see people using tablets. So that's the interaction we have. Then in between that, then you will see the employees of the port actually handling a lot of digitized equipment, handling from the cranes, that's a super big OT like a factory, and all the way to those digitized smaller tablets whereby they can update equipment information, they can update the job status and all that stuff, then all the way back to the community to dealing with the actual users of that container. So from there onwards, you will see more collaboration and all that. So every single interactions, every single device there will actually be a point of entry for potential malicious actor. So with this level of complexity, with this number of equipment or this type of interaction we have, then how do we protect PSA, right? So we believe in PSA, we believe in total security convergence. That means we bring in the OT because we have huge fleet of equipment in the yard. And we believe in the convergence of that OT security as well as the IT security that's typical in ERP systems, right? And we also have physical security element there because PSA operates at port, which is a free trade zone, right? You have people from the vessel that coming down on shore. Then you have people with their trucks moving containers in and out. So we have that physical element there. People can come in and sabotage with that physical access. That's why we bring these three together with our operational control centers. So we bring that whole 360 total security convergence, look at this in holistically. So with this in mind, what we do is that we bring that on the left side, you see that we have regulatory requirements from people like CSA as the central governance body in Singapore for the whole of cybersecurity. We have a CCOP issued by them that we have to follow. Then MPA as the maritime regulator, they have a set of rules and regulations that people like us, we need to follow. Then internally within that organization, we have our own set of rules and standards that we have to follow. So our job is that we want to make sure that we understand all of this and we harmonize it so that we have a cohesive set of instructions. Everyone in the organization knows what to do. And of course, we will need to do a bit of differentiation because different systems got different kind of importance to the organization. Then we will do that, then offer that level of clarity to all employees. Then on the right side, you know that the set of things on the left side, to my left, is actually the things that give you the bare minimum baseline that you need to do. So in today's context, nobody can actually assume to be safe while doing that minimum. So what we do is that we go beyond that compliance to look at the industry best practice for things like, for example, the US NIST has a whole suite of framework standards published in public domain for everyone to reference. And we also have MITRE ATT&CK framework, which is very useful for us to communicate with industry partners, with regulators, and with service providers. And we also have typical defense in depth, defense in diversity, and this kind of mindset thing to guide us in orchestrating and architect our defenses. So with all this together, we identify 5 key pillars to protect PSA in a cyber environment. So if you are familiar with Herman Brand Dominance Index, this is actually color we set. The blue one is actually has to do with a technology architecting kind of things. That is more logical, right? So it is more logical in that sense to make sure that we get the things documented, we get the things designed, secure in the first place. Then following through that, there will be more green stuff. That means it has to focus on processes and make sure things are operationalized and make sure things are efficient. So these are 3 things that we do in the center. These are 3 pillars. Then the last one is more on the people side of things, like what you hear from from Dan earlier, 75% of the cyber attacks actually has to do with a crew, right? You hear from Ron that PCL actually handles the cyber security training for all of the staff. So we similarly have to make sure that our people are competent and they know what to do. So I'll go a bit more into details of each. So in the first part, if you recall, that PSA believes in total security. That means we need to blend in 3 dimensions, the IT, OT, physical together, and make sure when we architect the solution, we think holistically, and we harmonize them and reap the synergy of all 3 of them into consideration. So that's on the first item. Then the next 3, the green ones, actually has to do with all the operational stuff. So we need to make sure that the information from all perspectives, from OT, IT, security, and as well as physical, they come together. And we streamline that process and make sure it's sustainable because a lot of new requirements are added. And we have limited manpower, right? We have limited hours that we have. So we got to make sure that we harmonize them and we build systems that can support all of this in an effective manner. So that's where things like big data, things like AI can play a part. Then the last part is on the people, that we need to make sure that we train them with a mindset that collect all 3 of them together and make sure that we deliver that desired outcome. Maybe just a bit of difference as in what Ron is doing. So they are saying that they train the crews to take up horizontally more work to cybersecurity. We took a slightly different approach because in PSA we do a lot of automation. Things become more and more complicated. Our approach is that we want to make sure the frontline staff, they know best in what they do. They have a full understanding of the systems. They are able to identify anomaly and report accordingly in a timely manner. Because our operating control center and our cybersecurity center, as well as physical security control center, all co-located, so they can communicate. If this incident or anomaly got reported timely, then we have the expert there to look into it and make sure that we respond timely. That's our approach, which is slightly different from yours. So that's what I want to share with you in these 10 minutes. I hope you find it useful. Thank you.
Thank you, Listen. Can I please invite you to stay with us on stage as we segue into the next part, which is our panel session. I'm going to invite back our panelists earlier, our speakers, Mr. Ong Chin Beng, Mr. Daniel Ng, and Mr. Ron Fong. Please join us. Moderating this is Mr. Anthony Lim. He's a fellow cybersecurity governance and fintech from Singapore University of Social Science. All right, gentlemen, match the faces to the spaces. You got water as well, I think. Please help yourself. It's going to be a session of talking. Now, how you can get involved is to scan the QR code. Can we just flash it really quickly? Please scan, and then you can put in your questions and participate in this panel session. Otherwise, you also have the QR code behind your name badges to join us in this conversation. So that's it. I think our panel is ready. I'll hand the time to Anthony. Over to you.
Thank you very much, and good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and thank you for being here. First of all, I'd like to say a couple of things, wow, there's so much information, so much learning from the 4 distinguished gentlemen, I don't even know where to begin. The second thing is that the organizers of this event did a very brave thing. The worst thing to do is to have a cybersecurity session immediately after a good lunch. So A, I hope none of you fell asleep. And B, I hope everything they said didn't churn your stomach and spoil your lunch. But having said that, I'm sure our group of distinguished experts from various areas in the maritime industry will be here to make sure that we not only learn a thing or two, but do not fall asleep. So basically, I'm going to keep this relatively casual. We don't want to get more academic and more technical. And I'm going to ask the same question of all the panel members, and they will each answer in their own a perspective or opinion. They may agree or disagree, or they may add to each other. We'll do a few of that, and then we'll open to you and to ask you to ask us some questions. And again, there's no bad or wrong answer. We're all here to learn. And as you've realized that in the past several minutes presentations, cybersecurity in the maritime industry, there's a lot to do. There's a lot to consider. A lot's being done, but more needs to be done. So without in any particular order, let me start from, I'll ask each of the gentlemen, starting with Mr. Ong next to me. So could you suggest one of the new technologies that's being deployed in the maritime industry today, whether onshore, shipboard, or in between? Could you name like one of the new technologies that's being used that catches your attention?
Thanks, Anthony. I think one of the key technology in the transformation of maritime industry, not to sound too cliche-ish, is artificial intelligence or AI. AI cuts both ways. With latest ChatGPT 4.0, it have leapfrogged and caught into the attention of the mainstream quite a lot recently. But before that, actually MPA, we have leverage on artificial intelligence to basically apply it on our digital port at SG into our just-in-time planning and coordination platform. And this together with PSA, of course. And what it does is that we are leveraging on AI to basically to shorten the turnaround time of ships at our port. And this is good for business because when the ships turn around faster, the port get more efficient and they will probably release less of those carbons as we decarbonize the whole entire industry. So it's safe, it's good for business, it's good for environment, and at the same time, during the COVID period of time, Singapore is known as the catch-up port, in a good sense. So along the entire supply chain, where ships' schedule was affected and they need to catch up on their schedule, they actually came to Singapore to basically catch up on their schedule because we are efficient in this way. And we have leverage on AI to do so, and we will do more so with AI. And this is one of the key technology that has allowed us to transform as part of digitalization process.
Thanks, Chin Beng. Well, that's amazing. We'll come to the bad news later, but yes, AI. Okay, what do you see, Daniel? Could you suggest one of the technologies in the digital transformation of the maritime business and operations?
That's a huge question, Anthony. I mean,
Just pick one.
I think I can categorize, if I focus on ships and shipping operations, there's a lot of advancement happening. The speed in which it's happening is probably quite variable, but there are 4 areas really. Firstly, everything that makes it easier for the crew to do their job. There's a huge number of technical advancements there, from augmented reality support and training, all the way through to prompting of technical activity, safety activity. So there's a whole area of advancement happening around supporting the crew. There's another whole area around automating the systems on board. So whether that is cleaning robots, all the way through to self-decision making around some of the vessel systems, as smart ships are becoming more used. That is a whole other area as well that's happening there. And then you go to the third block, which is helping the people on shore support crew better. So whether that is using AI technologies or learning or even sort of all kinds of support analytics mechanisms, there's a huge amount happening in that space. And then what ties it all together is all of the connectivity innovation that's happening, from low Earth orbit all the way through to onboard connectivity. And these kind of 4 areas are working in tandem quite a lot to advance shipping. So,
Thanks, Daniel. We'll come back to later. I was going to ask you to save some of it for Ron and Mr. Lee. So, Ron,
I
I'm
realize
sure you've got some.
there's nothing much left to say. Then you just finish it
Okay,
up.
what technologies are you deploying in your vessels today, for example?
I would say, okay, maybe just a little add-on to both of them, right? From a vessel side of things, vessel optimizations, being able to transfer data out of vessels, being able to leverage on AI, machine learning, to somehow aggregate for ESG reporting, for example. So all these technologies are now very sort of common in the industry. So, but as connectivity improves, right, and even while we were talking about training our seafarers, as of today, new AI technologies that helps train the seafarers are actually there. For example, we are now also exploring, traditionally fishing, for example, is actually being sort of conducted as a campaign by a particular person, customizing it one by one, right? So in this case, now AI comes in, where we will say, we will go through a certain level of emails, and we will now customize it for you in the entire calendar of 365 days. And it's not as per campaign, it's only as and when it's needed, targeting specific employees. So all these are, amazing technologies that's happening within the shipping industries.
Thank you. And Lee Sin, coming on to the wharf and port operations, what new technologies are they deploying today?
In a port context, and we see similar things. So in addition to AI and ML that everyone has mentioned, we also explore things like blockchain that trying to build for the supply chain ecosystem. With different business partners, with PSA in the center, we try to play a orchestrator role so that we can leverage on those kind of things to have a community kind of system instead of open one that for Bitcoin. So that's interesting development, but it's still at the early stage. What we as a terminal operator sees of pervasive use is actually AI and ML. Like what Jimmy mentioned, we are known as a catch-up port. So that means in PSA as the operator, we leverage on, in the past, we call it algorithms optimizations, right? So we do make sure that with the limited land we have, with the limited resource we have, we turn things around faster in a consistent manner. So that's what we do. But moving into that context, what we see more is moving beyond traditional operations. And we see our IT folks, they are working with Microsoft to use GitHub Copilot, which is the AI to enable our developers to write code faster, to do testing faster. And we see the security professionals leverage on AI to make sure that SOC identify anomalies, respond to the incidents, thousands of them, faster in a more efficient manner. That's how I see PSA is using it.
Wonderful, thank you. This is very encouraging. I hear AI and blockchain and automation, so that's going to keep Singapore, post-COVID, as the number one port for years to come. Okay, now then coming to the next question, which is a punchline, not necessarily related to what you have just said. What is the number one cybersecurity issue in your mind today when it comes to maritime operations in Singapore?
Since I started, maybe I'll touch on this.
Okay.
Before I answer this question, maybe I do a very quick poll. So how many of you here actually do not know what Grand Prix is, GP, F1? If you know of Grand Prix, put out your hands. I believe many of you. Keep your hands there. Keep your hands there. How many of you know of, probably heard about this that I mentioned last week? How many know about 24 hours Le Mans race? Wow. I'm glad to see so many hands. But what is the difference between Grand Prix and Le Mans 24-hour race? Grand Prix is a 60 rounds, 3 hours race. Le Mans is a 24 hours endurance focused race. So to make sure that you finish Le Mans, your machine, it tests your engineering capability of your car. You want to go as fast as possible to cover as much distance as possible to be able to win the race. But besides a very powerful engine that gets you to win your race, What else do you think is necessary to make sure that you are able to negotiate those corners safely and the car do not crash? It's actually your brakes. It's actually your brakes. So, similarly, as we digitalize the whole entire industry, we go fast, we want to be better connected. If you do not have a good cybersecurity, you will not be able to negotiate that band that well. So in this instance, just now we have covered quite extensively by various speakers. You have already seen the impact of cyber physical onto a port. You have seen presentation of Ron, Daniel, and also seen that that the threat is real on a vessel, and how it can incapacitate or impact your vessel's fleet operations. It may sound a bit cliche, but it's not a question of if, but it's a question of when. DMV's report shows very clearly, it's in the mind of senior professionals who have been surveyed, 80% are worried about a fleet-wide operation impact by cybersecurity. So just like running a Le Mans, it's a 24-hour race, endurance race. Cybersecurity is a journey. You need to have good brakes to make sure that you are able to go as fast as you can. So what's keeping me awake is cyber physical operations. And for that very reason, that's why we are building Mikhail at specifically the same building where MPA is monitoring the safety of vessels that's plying Singapore's waters at this moment.
Thank you. Wow. Thank you. Daniel, what's one technology issue with respect to cyber in maritime that keeps you awake?
I'm not sure how to follow up with that
No.
metaphor.
I'm sure
but
there's another one.
I'll do my best.
That's quite a mouthful. Thank you.
I mean, the brake analogy is really good, right? I mean, it helps us understand, and if you take that analogy even further, the hallmark of a good racing driver isn't actually how hard he or she can press on the accelerator pedal. It's about knowing when to press the brake and using that effectively. And I think that analogy carries through in security. So I'll give you 2 points, Anthony. I think the first one is, if we zoom up and we focus just on vessels at the moment, apart from very, very isolated cases with very special circumstances, vessel systems are by and large still not specifically targeted, or there's no evidence yet of there being specific targeting of vessel systems, which means that the far majority of attacks on shipping systems is what we call spray and pray. So people are targeting or not targeting, as an indiscriminate spray, and then hoping that it will hit something, and sometimes it hits a vessel system. So at the moment, that's what evidence tells us. The flip side of that means that what's allowing people to come through or the attacker to come through, is human error, or is bad behavior. So number one risk in my view at the moment that we need to work on very heavily is human error. If we can close that down, we can close down the attack numbers and volumes significantly in shipping systems. That's the first thing I think. The second thing I'll say is, we talk about new technology and digitalization as risk, and I think I'd like to offer a counter view on that, because actually if we harness that well, better connectivity, better digitalization can actually improve security. But in order to do that, we need to design that in as we are deploying it. And right now, we're not necessarily thinking hard enough about designing security into digitalization and connectivity, and that's a real opportunity lost. So I think we need to think about that as well.
Thanks, Daniel. I'll come in for a while before I come on to Ron. But the naysayer in me saying that design security into the design will take a generation. Okay, we've been talking about that for the past generation. Speaking of which, okay, I just for those of you who remember the very bad ransomware attack that took down a lot of operations of the Maersk shipping line in 2017, the ironic, funny thing is Maersk wasn't targeted. That ransomware was meant to attack something else. Unfortunately, Maersk had a lot of old unpatched Windows machines that the ransomware happened to find. and then that brought down MERS, not by intent. So that's one of the things we need to look out for. But anyway, coming back to Ron, what's one cybersecurity technology or cybersecurity issue that that you're worrying about for all your vessels today?
Now sharing from vessels' point of view, maybe just to add on what you shared just now,
Sure.
the MERS or even some of the incidents that was publicly available, showing as a report, right? They are not fleet vessels related. They are more shore-based, somehow linked to the vessels itself. And I agree with Dan. As of today, it's really just spray and what we call, they coined the term as strike and delay. A lot of the vessels get certain level of incidents, but again, life moves on. They are able to clean it up and being able to continue to operate in a way. Now, crew, again, to me, is still that last line or first line of defense. They can be the strongest link or the weakest link in this case. Training them will definitely be something that everybody must think about. What keeps me up at night as of today is really looking at the entire supply chain, right? For us vessels, physical cyber is a bit different, right? Because vessels is in the middle of the oceans, the way we protect our stuff is a bit different. Now, we deploy a lot of technologies to safeguard this vessel. However, when we deploy these technologies, they are protecting us. Who's protecting them? Right? So this has always been an endless cycle of debate at times where we end up having a lot of technologies, whether it's for security purpose or is it for vessel optimization purposes. But at the end of the day, if they are helping us, who's helping them? So I think we need to somehow, correlate and align everyone together. Yeah.
Yes, thank you. And speaking of supply chain, okay, coming back to the wharf operations, what is one of the concerns you have with respect to the IT operations at the wharf and cranes and all those?
So the equipment in the wharf are actually pretty complicated. All right, it's similar to every single of the cranes is similar to a vessel in the sea. And they have a lot of drives, a lot of PLCs and all that stuff. So what we do is that we take a pretty prudent approach by ensuring that the PSA is in control of those design of the equipment. That means we don't buy a wholesale off-the-shelf kind of equipment. What we do is that we talk to the manufacturing of the crane. We tell them that our requirements, but we dictate what kind of PLCs, what kind of internal architecture that the manufacturer got to bring in. So they will put together all this, then deliver the crane to us. Then we do our own engineering folks will go in and do that testing. So in that way, we want to make sure that supply chain risk is managed, is reduced to the minimum as low as possible. So that's PSA's approach in handling that supply chain risk for those equipment in the wharf. If not, we will be, open to the attacks by whether intentional or unintentionally by those malicious players stealing data or doing all sorts of funny things in the yard. So that's our approach.
Thank you. Okay, I'm going to switch gears and talk about something else for a while. And that something else specifically is going to be Starlink. Okay, and I'm sure you guys know about Starlink. And again, we can have different opinions. So let me talk about Starlink for a while. During the Ukraine war, the Russians, Putin, destroyed all the telecoms, communications, and internet of Russia, of Ukraine, trying to undermine them. But then again, Elon Musk to the rescue with Starlink. They gave the internet connection. At the same time, recently, I was in Europe, and actually we were in Europe for a while. And now Singapore Airlines has free internet on the plane. So it's like it's still lousy, but it's free for everybody. So 300 people get internet. So I was wondering, how is this possible? And we have jokes that your boss, now you no longer have excuse to your boss that you're on a plane, I got no internet, I can't do it, no. So I was wondering that, I realized it's Starlink. They didn't, of course Singaporeans didn't say, but how come suddenly, instead of 10 $10 or £10 an hour for very poor internet connection. Now everyone gets free, very poor internet connection. And we talked about earlier about, in fact, you've heard 10, 15 years ago, the Somali pirates were attacking the vessels and tankers in the area, attacking their electronic and radio communications. There was already those kind of electronic cyber attacks. But early on, Ron, I think, talked about, one of the attacks was not successful because of very poor internet connection. But now with Starlink, now all the seafarers could, to text home or WhatsApp and chat with their family. And of course, it's a wonderful addition to the connectivity and safety of the ships. It's a lot faster, a lot cheaper than satellite and all that kind of thing. But what is your opinion, starting with Mr. Ong here, about Starlink or equivalent with respect to all the vessels?
I think having connectivity is definitely good. Good for maritime, it's good for business. It's also good for the psychological factors of the crew who are able to connect with their loved one back home, no matter how lousy it is. Having one message from the family is always good for the morale. But that opens up expanded cybersecurity attack surface. I was told by Captain Sega, ACE of MPA, that it used to take about 36 crew to run a ship. But today, it takes about 18 to 12 to run a ship. So what's the delta change? The delta change is that the ship has digitalized. So what it means is that systems used to be more standalone, your ballast systems, your cargo management system, your power system, your mapping system, your navigation system used to be silo systems. But with the decrease in the number of crew, and some of you in the room will probably remember that there are many engineers on board the ship, each taking care of different kinds of systems. But today, it has probably boils down to one engineer who's supposed to know everything about the ship. And the ship status of health has been through control by a central platform, human-machine interface. And that connectivity itself allows an open up channel for cyber attack to take place. And right back to your point about Starlink, if your information can be uploaded, something can get downloaded. In that something can get downloaded, something can move laterally across. So that is the very reason why it has been an identified area of concern a few years back. And we put in the resource to be able to look at how do we effectively address this particular concern, specifically with the test bed of Marriott. So Marriott is designed to be able to a few things, to train professionals who have the capabilities to address such vulnerability on board the ship, number one, to be able to test solutions that's out in the market, to be able to be then applied to the ship, number two, and number three, to be able to conduct cyber exercises with like-minded partners, local and overseas. All in all, as an ecosystem, we hope that through this effort, we are able to increase the cybersecurity posture locally, internationally, and contributes the platforms for various types of exercises, drills, and training to other like-minded parties in that sense.
Thank you, thank you. Daniel, you have an opinion on Starlink?
Absolutely. First thing to say is...
Hang on, let me disclaim. This is I'm not marketing for Starlink per se. We're just using that as basically a technology. I don't know Elon. He doesn't know me either.
Check whether you're driving Tesla later.
Yeah, I'm driving a Tesla. I've got Elon on LinkedIn. Okay, carry on.
Other options are available, so it's not just Starlink. First thing to say is, I agree, Chin-Beng, connectivity is a good thing. Connectivity in of itself isn't the problem. It's how we use it that's the problem. So if we keep building on this analogy of when to press the brakes, my main concern now is that we've got a very short window. And we've got a very short window because the rate of uptake of low Earth orbit, Starlink, LEO, is incredibly quick right now. And the way shipping operators are implementing it is very variable. So we have a really good opportunity and a very small window right now to help shipping operators implement LEO in a good way and ride that opportunity to actually implement security because we are putting LEO in. If we miss this window, we have connected up a whole bunch of things that should not be connected up and created the risk. So don't blame Starlink, blame the implementation, and we've got to grapple this now because that window is closing very, very, very quickly.
Thank you. So coming to Ron, so how do I sell you hundreds of firewalls for all your vessels at sea? Just kidding. But anyway, Starlink, or as an example.
I think even before I do that, I think Anthony, flying on an SQ flight with the internet is actually not bad compared to shipping.
Oh, no, I'm just kidding.
I should invite you on a vessel.
What do you mean?
Yeah.
Okay.
So now, Starlink to me is definitely very helpful in digitalizations, right? Especially for our crew to be able to communicate back home. So this is something that we strongly encourage. Maybe just to again add on to what Dan has been saying. Today, when OT systems are being connected, maybe internet latencies and everything else cause the delay, and it's not a big favorite for specific hackers per se to try and target us. But when Starlink is there, then it will be a different ballgame. Now, maybe sharing a little bit, Starlink or any other provider today relies on a bit of a reseller service. Each reseller, again, has their own offerings, and also, in this case, depending on the offering, they might not even have certain level of basic security in place. Right?
Usually not.
It depends on who asks for it, right? So, in that aspect, right? So, imagine you get the cheapest available offer today, all good for your operations, and you start connecting it up and having all your OT systems being connected, and then you're completely exploited. You're exposed to all these threats. So again, down to what I shared earlier, from a supply chain perspective, who will be able to help us if we are getting that service? Who will be able to govern them, and who will be able to protect them, and as well as protect our assets on the ship? Yeah.
Thank you. Lee Sin, your opinion on Starlink? Sorry.
Okay. As a port operator, we don't benefit directly from things like Starlink because we spend a lot of money to have the whole port wired out with optical fiber to make sure we have reliable networks supporting the port operation. And we also have the port areas covered up by either our own Wi-Fi, outdoor Wi-Fi, or by telcos, 4G or 5G network for that purpose. But as a port operator, we do like connectivity because that enables the vessel to share with us where they are, what time they are going to call our port. So with this information, it helps us to plan better, to make sure that our operation is efficient. So from that perspective, we welcome that. But as what Timmy mentioned, with all this connectivity, that means there's more attack vectors. So what we need to do is to make sure that we educate our staff that this way of coming to our systems from vessels, in the sea, and we need to be mindful that it can be potentially malicious, and we need to have that hygiene factor taken care, like what Dan mentioned. If the human error can be taken care of, then we are probably 70-80% done, right? So that's our perspective.
Thanks. Yes, correct. I mean, if the vessels at sea can call home, then someone else can be listening to them too. But we'll save that for later. I'll switch gears around right now. And we've done quite a bit of talking. So now we'll come on to you. Is there any one of you, please, the guy running around the mics, are you ready? Okay, never mind. If you can't find it, just shout. Just shout. You have any questions for our panel of experts, or anything you seriously disagreed with, or you have some other idea? Richard will come back to you. Okay. All right. So I'd like to. Yes, you've got a. Yes, please. Please raise your hand. Anyone run with him to him with a mic? If you don't, then just yell the answer. Mic 1, mic 2, mic 3. Go. Thank you. Yes, the gentleman there. Yes, on your left. Thank you.
Hi, thank you very much for your presentation. Joel from NUS, Center for International Law. I was just wondering if this Starlink satellite system is disrupted for whatever reason, right? Is there any backup plan for, say, maritime navigation or communication? So are we back to, an older, slower form of system? And what is the exact threat if vessels lose their connections with, this new satellite system? Thank you.
Thanks, Joel. Actually, we were going to come to the threats later, but anyway, thanks for your question. So we will address the first one first. Those of you who have deployed Starlink or something else, maybe that's the interesting question. Is there a backup?
Everybody's just looking at me now.
No, I don't know why I don't know. Okay, never mind. You just start. Okay, we'll do it as random. Thanks.
So maybe to answer you, yes, as of today, there is what we call the VSAT connectivity. Is definitely slower than Starlink, right? But I would say majority of vessel operations today do not relies on this connectivity fully, right? In the events that, again, any of the connectivity fails completely, I would say life goes on, but in a more painful manner. For example, they can't send emails, they have to rely on phone calls, in telex. Whoever is old enough to understand there's something called telex.
Telex.
Basically, it's like fax, right? Yeah.
It works.
Yeah, in a way, life goes on. It's just that from a digitalization point of view, whether to look at vessel optimization or this, it will not be available until the connectivity gets restored. Hope that answers your question. Yeah.
I think there's two phases, right? So this is phase one, which is not just life goes on, but life carries on as it currently is, mainly actually with most vessels, right? So we're not going back. We're not going back to anything with going the same as we are doing now, right? Starlink is a jump forward. I think the inflection point will come if we rely so much on real-time data to run operations. When that inflection point comes in, who knows? There's some shipping companies that are driving towards more autonomy, and some of them will probably, when they start thinking about deep ocean, will start thinking about things like Starlink to rely on that backbone. But for most cargo shipping, I think the second phase we don't know. Where I think it'll be interesting to watch is cruise, because I think the rate of adoption for cruise for something like Starlink is significantly higher, and the rate of usage and reliance on it is significantly higher. So cruise always has some kind of preference for VSAT anyway. But imagine being on a cruise, 6,000 people, and you go from bad internet connection to extremely good internet connection. You have a family of people that you're taking on board. The kids want to do online gaming the whole time. Starlink enables that, right? So it will fundamentally change a lot more quickly than traditional cargo shipping.
Yeah, maybe we should throw the question back to Anthony, right? So just imagine you're now on the flight in SQ, you're complaining that it's slow. But once you get used to it, once it's gone, what happened, right?
Well, true, yes, I see what you mean. Well, okay, though, SQ is a bad example because, I like not having internet during my flight, so that's where I get my timeouts. But anyway, you all have a point there that the dependency will be there, all right? The dependency, and then one day, a year from now or 2 years from now, Joel's question will become relevant, because even today, when the internet goes down, we all start cursing and start swearing because 5 years, again, talk about telex, and we're all very young. Do you remember? Those were the days, but today, 3G becomes a joke. We're talking 5G. So that dependency, you got an opinion, Jin Ming?
He's young.
He's young, yeah.
No, I not that young. But I still remember that when internet first come on, you have to dial in.
Yes.
Right. But
and we were very happy. Wow.
But I do share with you that there's a bit of century on board the aircraft when your boss cannot reach you in certain ways.
Yes.
But I do agree with, I definitely echoes Daniel's point. It's about the level of expectation. And if your business has gotten on so used to that kind of efficiency level and that kind of connectivity, then when that disruption happens, do you have that BCP to be able to flip over? So because your business is so used to that kind of speed and that kind of digitalization, many of you in Singapore would remember what happened 1 or 2 Saturdays ago. If you're only banking with one particular bank, you probably will have trouble doing payment. So I experienced that. Fortunately, I have a credit card from another bank. But if you translate that and overlay that particular scenario into a shipping and a maritime situation, if you're so used to having that kind of connectivities and your BCP is not being exercised, and you tend not to have people who know that actually you have a BCP, you have a bit of a problem when it comes down, when that connectivity does fail. So it boils down to our theme for today is resilience. So what is in your resiliency package? Are you like a trampoline that things can happen, you bounce back very quickly? Or are you a piece of paper that once things happen, you fall through straight? I think that's a question that we really have to think very hard in your business. And also as an ecosystems, especially as what Ron has emphasized quite a bit on the entire software and hardware supply chain. We will await the report from what happens to the data center, but think about actually what happens to our banking transactions. Actually, if you take 1 or 2 hop back, it's a matter of supply chain issue. So how strong is your supply chain? How reliant are you on one vendor or the other? It's a question that all of us here have to think about. So when you're so reliant on that particular connectivity, if it were to be not available, are you able to switch over very fast to ensure your business disruption is kept to the minimum?
Thanks. And all these speakers today actually made references to supply chain. Now, Chin Beng brought up a very important point here about BCP, Business Continuity Planning, and that is a very key component of cybersecurity today. As you know, the basic mantra of cybersecurity is the 3 pillars of C-I&A: confidentiality, integrity, and availability. When you talk about resilience, when you talk about BCP, that is where an availability issue of cybersecurity comes in. Thank you very much, gentlemen. Okay, let's forget Starlink for a moment. Yes, yes, sir. Okay, so you either run to him with a mic or you yell. No, you're missing each other. All right, now he's coming forward. Thank you, sir.
Hi, I'm Nelson McMillan, the UK International Liaison Officer at the Singapore Information Fusion Centre. And I have a question around the human element of the resilient maritime ecosystem, which I think it's so easy to forget in this day and age when we're talking about digitization. There was one of the presenters, and it might have been Mr. Fong, but forgive me if I got it wrong. I think we referred to actually crewing our ships now, so that we have one cybersecurity expert on board our vessel, almost as if, you know, they were a cyber version of a mechanical engineer, which I thought was really interesting. But back to the question, what do the panel think about how we attract the next generation of STEM cybersecurity experts to choose the maritime ecosystem as a career that they want to be a part of, particularly because we'll be competing against the likes of other industries that may be offering something more attractive than perhaps a career in the maritime, particularly going to sea in the maritime. So how do we attract that type of next generation cyber professional to be a part of this ecosystem? Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, if I may rephrase or summarize your question, it's like, how do you attract cybersecurity talent into the maritime industry, or for that matter, turn next generation of maritime professionals into cybersecurity professionals? Am I correct to look at it that way? So, okay, also I get the question is, it's one or the other. How do you attract cybersecurity professionals to sail, or how do you attract, sailors to be more cyber savvy? That's okay, a summary of a question? Okay, thank you.
I guess I will start answering this question. Maybe the rest of the panelists can add on. Globally, broadly, in the world, there are a shortage of 3.5 million cybersecurity professionals, 3.5 million. That's the figure for 2022. So among the industry, there's already a shortage of cybersecurity professionals. Then on maritime sector, what does it mean for us? In maritime sectors, you need to get the person, as the gentleman has rightly pointed out, that he needs to have that cyber domain knowledge plus cybersecurity, because the operating systems that we work with is not like those in some other sectors that's purely IT, for example, financial. We do have shipboard systems, we do have vessel traffic information systems, and we do have other operation technology systems, IoT, etc. So how do you find the group and be able to continue to hire, train, and sustain them? It's a very big question. And it's a question that MPA is working very closely with SSA to look into these particular issues. There are few dimensions that we can look at. If I may just offer some suggestions. One of it is looking at it from the undergraduate, the schools. Those have not left the schools. How do we excite them to join the maritime industry? And for those who are looking at computer engineering or computer science, attract them to come into maritime society, to work in the maritime sector. So we're looking at green harvesting them programs, and we're working with SSA to engage the Institute of Higher Learning early enough. So these are the group of students who have yet to enter into the working life. Second part to it is, how about those that are already working? Traditionally, in the past, cybersecurity is what we call IT security, right? A lot of us but cybersecurity have gone from the support of a support to now became in the forefront in cybersecurity. And for those who are already in the career, how do we excite those who are already in IT or the engineers to convert them into cybersecurity? So this is another layers of professionals, of resource that we want to tap on. To how do we come up with a crash course to be able to leverage on the knowledge they already have on the sector and also in IT or engineering aspects to equip them with the right tools and certifications so that they can then be able to jump and do into the job. So the question here is this: for those layer 2, is it easier to train an engineer to become a cybersecurity professional, or to be able to get a cyber professional to be able to look at OT? My experience tells me that it's actually more of the former. So if you have somebody who is already an engineer trained, you don't need him to be a super penetration tester, but you need him to be able to do up to a certain level of competency to be able to address the cybersecurity concern that the organization have. And statistically speaking, CSA CE, Mr. David Cole, shared in one of the panel that 80% of your cyber attack actually boils down to very basic hygiene levels matters, like what the panelists have shared. It's not some sophisticated attacks by advanced persistent threat and so on and so forth. It's actually some basic level of cybersecurity. If you can get your existing engineers and IT professionals to up them to level 1 or level 2, it will help you in a certain way to protect your organization and leave the level 3 and the level 4 probably to more of the professionals. At the same time, the bigger question here, the wider question to ask, how do you sustain that pipeline? So thereby is the question on how do you be able to work together as a community between SSA and us. We're looking at some program to make sure that we continue to retain, retrain, and sustain this group of professionals. We don't have the answer. We hope that in the next sessions, we'll be able to give you some updates on this. Thanks.
Thank you, Jim Beng. And before I carry on, yes, and the Institute of Higher Learning, like, Singapore Polytechnic Maritime Institute and SIT, Singapore Institute of Technology, and SUTD, all the maritime programs are starting to include elements of cybersecurity training into their modules. So that will help the new budding seafarers and maritime officers with some basic cybersecurity knowledge. Any other ideas about the manpower?
So I can take this one. I run a cybersecurity company that focuses on maritime, and so much of my job is about hiring talent into the business. Your question is, how can we attract more cybersecurity practitioners into the maritime sector? My controversial answer, you don't. It's so difficult. So you just don't do it. Here's the problem with cybersecurity. We in the sector spend a lot of time making cybersecurity sound very complicated, and we make it sound like it's a completely separate discipline with a completely separate set of skills that other people outside this wall have no idea about. And there is a level of arrogance that us within the sector are guilty of by creating this wall. What I think we need to do more is we need to focus on how we get cybersecurity decentralized. How do we get people who have 80% day jobs do 20% that relates to security? How do we unpack security so that everyone can play a role in it, but in a way that's aligned? And if we can crack that model, we don't have to have cybersecurity full-time people in every organization. We have a model where lots of different people can support it. It might take time. In the meantime, we need to run programs, we need to run talent pipeline, but the long-term model for cybersecurity is not as a domain on its own, but as a horizontal that cuts through lots of domains. And so we need to keep working on that.
Right, just like how every maritime staff have some level of safety training and safety awareness. Okay, yes, come to you, Ron.
I don't think I have an answer for this. Maybe just more of a comment in this case. The definition of being a cybersecurity expert might differ in many ways. Some are really hardcore hackers per se, and some are just practitioners who are based on frameworks, understanding processes, and making it better in a way. Now, again, unable to answer your specific question, right? So because it's more of a chicken and egg issue to me. As of today, if we look at trying to bring in cybersecurity talent per se, my perspective as a shipping operator, right? What we struggle is this particular person you brought in do not speak maritime, right? We spend a lot of time teaching them the ins and outs, the technologies that's on board, etc. Now, if you reverse that thinking along, if I take a crew who totally understands a ship and trains him for cybersecurity, right? It might be a shorter route. And again, with quite a number of seafarers out there, a lot of them are now choosing to have a role on board, on shore rather than on board. So I would think, again, from my personal perspective, keeping people as whole within the maritime industry is already a very tough job. And ideally, whether they come from shore coming into maritime or from as a crew coming into shore role, it's ideal to maintain that within the ecosystem.
That's why a lot of you start talking about AI and automation and all that, how 36 people on a ship become 12. All right, over to you. Any comments about the manpower?
Similarly, I don't have a solution because PSA itself also face talent challenge. Mainly because overall, as Timmy mentioned, overall cybersecurity industry is facing a talent crunch. But what we do in PSA is that we take a few steps in handling this. Number one, we believe that we as a company must build a strong brand. We need to have a strong culture so that we keep, for two reasons. Number one, we keep existing employees happy and stay in the organization. So with that, then we have a pool of talented IT personnel and pool of talented engineering folks that we can groom them and train them to become part of our cybersecurity ecosystem of friends, so that they can work for us. So that's one way. The other way is that with that friends, with that branding there, with their culture, that as all companies in Singapore and probably in many other countries, we bring intern students from the Institute of High Learnings. So through that half a year or 1 year stay with us, they will get to know us. If they like the culture, they will join us. So from there, we get a few supplies over there. Then the other thing is that we need to work together with the ecosystem. In this cybersecurity ecosystem in Singapore, we have people like what Jimmy mentioned, MPA has certain schemes, IMDA has trainings and attachments programs. And we even have those in the line that for people like Red Alpha kind of things that the train mid-career switchers with cybersecurity skills and with placement to different organizations. So these are different talent pools. We don't have to go with only those conventional talent sources. So we go with that, and hopefully that can help with your situation as well. Yeah.
Thank you. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, these good gentlemen have been on the job in the spot and in the spotlight for nearly 2 hours already, and I really appreciate also your stamina for keeping up with this very tough topic. So we'll take one more question or comments from the audience before we. Yes, sir, please. Okay, so go.
Hi, I'm Kanan representing Voyager Worldwide Navigation Solutions. First of all, gentlemen, thank you for some great insights and information. As a seafarer who just recently moved ashore, I have a very silly or a small question. From the basic cybersecurity training I have had, I understand passwords are the first phase of defense. And in the 6 or 8 years I have sailed, from email accounts to more complex engine control panels, if I spend 15 minutes around the location, I can find the password or the username somewhere here or other. Even the manufacturer has put a label. Do you guys think password compromise is a concern when it comes to ships? And when my smartphone does not unlock if my eyes are not open, when do you think two-tier authentications or biometric authentications will be a reality on ships? Thank you.
Okay, I'll take this first. So yes, password related risk is significant in shipping. There are two issues. So we have already invented multi-factor authentication. We have already invented passwordless systems, on shore-based systems. So this is, a 2-decade-old problem. This is not new. But there are two challenges in shipping. And that's why I say something like LEO is helpful. Because one of the challenges is connectivity. The difficulty with multi-factor, or the difficulty with anything that requires some kind of identity or access management, means that you've got to update identity. And the only real way of doing that is to have some kind of connectivity. So this will be helpful. So whilst we have to be cautious about more connectivity, it can be used very powerfully for security. That's one challenge. The second challenge is retro-applying passwordless systems on IT systems is easy. On OT systems, is very, very difficult. So unfortunately, I think what's going to happen is that for us to completely get out of that sort of environment for OT systems is going to take the life cycle of a vessel. And that will take some time. However, most OT systems are entirely passwordless. Not that it's a password-free login, is no password login.
Yeah, you just
no
power
login
on.
required. Yeah.
You just power on, it runs.
So where you've got the highest safety risk is possibly also where you don't have a password problem. And that's something worth reflecting on.
And I think your situation came up because in a closed environment, like on board the vessel, a group of people, there's an element of trust. It's the same as in a hospital, a group of doctors and nurses and staff, there's an element of trust. We know each other, we do this every day. There's no reason for me to want to compromise this or that or steal a password. But now we're connected to the wrong people who want to compromise passwords, and which is why your question comes up. Okay, any other comment about password issue? Yes, Jim Bing.
I was in Copenhagen about 3 weeks back, and I have the privilege to meet colleagues from USCG, which have Atache colleagues Peter here. And the colleague from USCG shared with me a very good report that USCG actually just published. It's openly available. And USCG has this special force in the Cyber Command. They call it CPT, Cyber Protect Team. And they go around basically doing various type of tests or red teaming, what Ron has mentioned, hire red teamers to do and so on. One of the key learning points I was flipping on the page, I was reading in the aircraft without internet connections, was that USCG has this very interesting finding. Because your number of whether it's alphanumeric or otherwise, is a function of a mathematical model. So the USCG have interestingly, so how is the length of a password that is most difficult to crack? USCG found the answer. 80% of the time, there's a huge incremental difference if your password is 16 character long. 16 character. But my question here is, how many of you can actually remember a 16 character long password? But there's a solution. The solution is, instead of remembering the password, remember it as a passphrase. I love to eat laksa. If you spell that out, maybe you can say, I love to eat laksa in 2021. I love to eat Hokkien mee in 2022. And I love to eat, I don't know what, mee siam in 2023. Probably that will make it easier for you to remember. But the key point here is that when you cross the threshold from 15 to 16, actually your ability for a person to brute force your password becomes extremely difficult. And that's quite an interesting point. But if you want to implement that length of levels of password in your organization, you most likely end up with people writing a lot on your post-it note and then hide it somewhere. So that is the human factors that you have to challenge with. Thanks.
No, or simple. I love you, I love you. I love you is 8 characters. I love you is 16 characters. Okay, by the way. Okay, so we're really coming down to a wire. Richard, I'm letting you off this time. So we've got a few minutes. Any other comment about passwords?
Maybe let me thank the gentleman first. I don't know when you came on shore. Thank you for staying in the industry first. I want to separate this, whatever has been shared, into two parts of it, especially from a shipping or vessels point of view, right? The IT side, or more of the crewing side, I would say. As of today, yes, what you point out, it is a pain point. So some of, I would say, particularly for PCL, we are now working with certain vendors to build out what we call identity providers to really link up all the seafarers as well as all the passwords. So in this case, having multi-factor authentication, having a best practice to secure crew as well as a vessel password is sort of in place. So I will encourage any operators who has not done so to consider having an IDP. Now, adding on to what Dan has shared, the OT side of things, I'll be completely honest today. If we talk about cybersecurity, who in this room is confident to guarantee there won't be a breach, right? So to me, the incident response, being able to restore and being able to normalize operations and keep a vessel in a safety operation sort of mode is essential. Right? So again, maybe indirectly trying to answer you in this case, having that BCDR sort of plan as well as process to bring things safely back to normalized state, that would be more important than having the password, at least in my perspective. Yeah, thank you.
Okay, PSA doesn't really manage vessels, but we manage cranes in the yacht, in the wharf side. So there are OT equipment also. And I can see the problem in 2 dimensions. One of them is those devices that can be networked. That the panelists shared. What we are doing is pretty similar. We bring them into centralized ID management, so that all the user IDs and password are centrally managed, so that you can enforce password policies, you can do proper password management. In the past, it used to be, every engineer knows their own little password is not synchronized, and it's all well known. People can guess. They know what password it is. So that handles part of the problem, because the other part of the OT device, like Daniel mentioned, they got totally no password. So what we need to do is to make sure that we look at it from security as a whole. We make sure there's physical security there. We make sure people access those environments are really authorized, and there's people accompanying them if really necessary. So it depends on this kind of arrangement, then we can make sure the security is taken care of. Instead of single solution, we may need to do things differently for different kind of things. Yeah.
Thank you, Lisine. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, we've all good things have to come to an end, and we've really worked hard. Yes, thank you, and thank all of you. I really want to apologize. We have many questions that we can't answer because of the lack of time. We could go on all afternoon, but then we'd probably all fall asleep. So, Richard, I'll save you for another time anyway, unless you have something really compelling to say. Yes, quick, 1 minute. Is this anything rude you want to say? Quick.
Yeah, maybe I can ask a question continuing the theme of the F1. So we have the F1 racing here in Singapore, but what makes it interesting is it doesn't just stay in Singapore, it moves around the world. And one of the things about creating a safe and resilient maritime ecosystem is not all the knowledge is kept here in Singapore. So I understand some of the activities that Chimbeng you were talking about to try and create a safer ecosystem here in Singapore. But are there areas that we can learn from other geographies or perhaps other industries that are doing particularly well that we can bring into maritime? So it's really a question. I don't know if we've got time to answer that, but maybe just one thought from some of the panel members would be useful to share.
Thank you, Richard. You want to respond to him? Yes.
Yeah. I'm glad that you were awake when I was talking about this. Joke aside, I know Richard for quite a while. You brought a very pertinent point. Even before we enter this panel, the panelists, Anthony was just giving this example. He said that a lot of times, COE just shot up to above 150,000. For COE, basically for international colleagues here, is a certificate in Singapore that give you the rights to own a car for 10 years. Right, so to buy that certificate is a separate cost from buying a car. So to buy that rights to own a car for 10 years, it costs you 150,000 Sing dollar now. So what happens is that most of the time when you buy a car, you tend to take very good care of your car. You probably will polish your car, change, take very good care of it, but seldom, a lot of time, you may enhance its looks and aesthetics, but a lot of times you don't really pay attention to the brake system or safety system. Direct to your question is this: what are the others engineering systems or technologies that can bring on into maritime as part of this car analogy is this? Besides the engine, besides the brakes, you realize that in the F1 team, one key thing is this. When they went to the pit stop, the turnaround of the changing of the tires was very fast because they work as a team. So besides working individually, you must have a very good cybersecurity team sport. If you work individually, at most you protect your system, but not forgetting that the panelists have mentioned is that the supply chain itself can get hit. So if you have a strike and delay, if I may borrow the terms coined by Cyber Hour, the entire schedule will get affected. So question here is, how do you have that situation awareness? You look at the F1 team, actually when the driver is driving, he is listening to the command from the team. Question here is that how do you get that situation awareness of the other racers that is around the track? Not to oversell, that's the very reason why MPA is setting up our Maritime Cyber Assurance Operations Center, to basically have that situation awareness of all our maritime key entities within our ecosystem, so that when an incident were to happen to one system, the rest of other systems get informed. So that it doesn't have to hit you, but you shield up quickly before it actually hits you. You send out a forward scout to look at what your enemy is doing before they actually come to breach your wall. So that brings down to the emphasis of why you need to have that collective mindset and basically to have that enhanced situation awareness. So back to F1, that team has a command center back at. They have a single panel of dashboard to look at how the engine is performing in real time. And that is the one thing that we want to build into our wider, what we call integrated operation systems that Vince is championing, to basically have that besides cyber, but actually look at the whole entire maritime key operating system in real time. In a short way, thanks.
Thank you, Chin Beng. That was very encouraging and a very encouraging close to our panel this afternoon, building a cyber-safe and resilient maritime ecosystem. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in giving our appreciation to our expert panel, who's worked so hard this afternoon. And over back to you.
Thank you, Listen, Ron, Daniel, Chin Beng, as well as Anthony for that very lively conversation. You're right, you won the bet. You did use your 2 hours. Well done, gentlemen. We're just thinking 2 hours, is that too long?
An hour and a half.
Yeah, that's right. But I guess you guys outdid yourself and just like our picture. Would you like to take a picture together? Yes, why not? Right, how often do we get together like this? Once a year, right? Annually. With the handsome faces up on screen as well. I'm going to make way for that. Awesome.
Thank you, gentlemen. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you. Time passed really quickly, just like the F1 drivers. Speedy and quick, swift, but I feel like there's going to be more conversation. So this is a nice segue to the upcoming tea break. But before we do have all of you invited outside, I'd just like to take 5 minutes of your time to do 2 things for this session. First, the feedback form. I've checked in. It's about 3 to 4 questions, really fast. We want to know what you enjoyed and what you want to see more of, specifically in session 3. In the next one is the quiz. Click on it. It's also 3 questions, and you might stand a chance to walk away with $50 Amazon voucher. So really appreciate your inputs. Our organizers are all taking it in, and we're wanting to improve each session to make it a meaningful one for you. That's it. A quick one as well for those of you who are joining us for the next session. You would have registered beforehand and would have received a QR code. So when you step in later at about 3:50, you'll need to register once again by scanning the QR code before you come in. All right, so we will be taking this opportunity to turn around the room. So please bring all your personal belongings with you for tea break and enjoy yourself. Well-deserved break. We'll see you back here at 3:50. Thank you for joining us for session 3. See you later.